How are you doing today?
It's a good day. It's surprisingly warm for as we're kind of approaching Halloween. So it's kind of nice.
Nice. Where are you at?
Toronto.
Oh, nice.
Our famous houses are the chapter one. A lot of it was shot in around Toronto, outside of Toronto, that creepy house from where Pennywise used to live.
Okay.
So that's where some of our famous locations are.
When we played hot dogs in Toronto, I went down Degrassi Street. That was like important to me I know that's not where it was shot or whatever, but like at least the name Degrassi Street was there. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Toronto's kind of like New York City a little bit, where like they shoot a lot of stuff here, but it's not necessarily here, if that makes sense. You know?
Yeah. But I know, I mean, Degrassi, they definitely shot, I think, at least the early stuff was around there. But
For
like
sure.
my friend Malcolm Ingram, who's a Toronto doc guy, he showed me, at least showed me the Degrassi Street.
I actually interviewed the Butterfly in the Sky, those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So one of your docs as well, I guess, as an executive producer.
Yeah.
Yo, welcome to My Summer Lair. I'm your host, Sammy. My sarcasm is homegrown, thanks to all the sitcoms I watched in the 80s, Younan. To spark this My Summer Lair episode, let's try a visual exercise. Close your eyes and see if you can picture the Home Alone house. That big, empty house where poor Kevin was left all alone at Christmas time as criminals battle to break in and steal everything. Chances are you can recall certain details, or you can picture particular elements of the Home Alone house. For some of you, I'll bet your memory of the Home Alone house is even stronger than your own childhood home. Now, what if the Home Alone house really was your childhood home? Fame is fascinating. In popular culture, we elevate actors, writers, and bands, all kinds of creative individuals. They're so well known based on their work that they become famous. And fame is not just limited to people. We also elevate pop culture objects. I've met the Knight Rider car Kit, I met the 66 Batmobile, and the General Lee from Dukes of Hazzard. All three celebrity car encounters were thrilling. When I show people the photo of me and Kit, the people that know that stuff love that stuff. They're like, whoa, that is cool. It is a viable celebrity encounter. I actually told Kit an inappropriate joke too. Did not go over well. And strangely, it's no different from seeing famous houses like the Home Alone house, which, is a real house just outside of Chicago. Here's the bizarre thing. A real family actually lives in the Home Alone house. See, to all of us, that is just the Home Alone house. Yet to the family that lives there, that's a home. They have birthdays and they grieve when relatives or close people pass away. They have to remember to take out the recycling on Wednesday. They do their homework on the dining room table. They host Thanksgiving dinner and sleepovers for the kids. It's a home. They have built a life out of that home. However you define home, home for them is the Home Alone house. And yet every Christmas, Home Alone fans come and they stop and they stare at the Home Alone house. They take photos and they slap their cheeks like Kevin because that is the Home Alone house. Those twin experiences run through the documentary The House From, directed by Tommy Avallone. The House From focuses on memorable homes from movies and TV shows and includes interviews with residents of such properties who share the unique and often weird experiences of living there while dealing with that fan attention. The documentary includes homes from Full House, The Golden Girls, Breaking Bad, Twilight, Home Alone, Friday, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Old School, The Outsiders, Silence of the Lambs, Family Matters, The Goonies, A Christmas Story, Mrs. Doubtfire, and Halloween, the John Carpenter classic from 1978. And while that's an impressive list, I'm curious about the houses that got away. What's an iconic house that Tommy would have enjoyed exploring? I wish he spent more time with the Wonder Years house, another house with a Kevin in it. During my conversation with Tommy, I mentioned that recently somebody bought the Poltergeist house. I wanted to know if there's a difference between owning and living in like the Golden Girls house versus like a horror house. Those famous houses connected to Halloween or Poltergeist, you know what I mean? And we also get into Tommy's previous doc, a 2022 Barty doc called I Love You, You Hate Me. It's on Peacock. Yes, a documentary that explores the harsh and occasionally violent backlash to Barney the dinosaur. I know, we live in weird times. That's a doc about why we hate things. The House From is a doc about why we adore things. This is a fascinating perspective into fame and celebrity. You know these houses. You spend time in these houses, especially if they were a TV sitcom like The Golden Girls. Speaking of sitcoms, my name is Earl Jason Lee. He narrates the documentary The House From, and the documentary is executive produced by Ryan Reynolds. Here's my charming conversation with Tommy talking about The House From. Stephanie, why don't you kick off this housewarming party with your opening gift? Hit it!
Sound, the final frontier. My Summer Lair is an enterprise, a pop culture voyage with a continuing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new creators and celebrate established producers, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. And now here is your host, Sammy Younan.
I just want to do a quick short tangent though before we get into The House From, because Barney is back. And as someone who made a Barney doc, I Love You, You Hate Me. This was a couple of years ago. It's on Peacock. Are you at peace with Barney now? Like, you expect this Barney revival to go more smoothly?
I take full responsibility for Barney coming back. I think Mattel saw the popularity that Barney got with that doc and was like, we need to bring this guy back. And so yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah, Barney's a good guy, you know? I mean, like everyone's allowed to have their thing, and as much as Barney wasn't my guy, he's other people's guy. You get to respect that, you know?
Yeah. Which kind of picks up the themes from your latest documentary, The House From, which is, it's like, I guess, an MTV Cribs tour of like famous houses from movies and TV shows. As a kid from New Jersey, like before you were a filmmaker, what was it like when Kevin Smith made movies like Clerks that were actually set in New Jersey?
Yeah. I mean, we looked at The House From as sort of a National Geographic, but instead of like lions and tigers and bears, it was famous houses, you know? And it was something that I always did as a kid. Like I live in New Jersey, but like right outside Philadelphia. So like the Rocky Steps are right there. I used to think the school by me was the clock tower from Back to the Future.
Oh, okay.
You know, but yeah. But
that must have been disappointing when you found out it wasn't.
Whatever. It's fine. But like, you know, but when in my 20s and finding out like Quick Stop and Jack's Music and RSC Video was like an hour and a half away, me and my friends would go to the Quick Stop and take out the eggs, you know, do all of the bits that you would have from Clerks. And it was so much fun. It was like, oh, wow, this is real. And like, then for a little bit, me and my wife lived in California, and we would like go to the Wonder Years house or the Nightmare on Elm Street house, you know, coming from where I used to work in Philadelphia, where real history was there, like the Liberty Bell and Ben Franklin's grave. It's like, that didn't interest me. It was like, but like, wait, you're saying that the Pee Wee Herman house is in South Pasadena and I could drive there? Like, that was crazy. So it was always fun. So showing up with a camera and asking people to go inside their house was the natural progression of the next step.
At the Quick Stop, were you Jay or were you Silent Bob? As you said, you would have to do the lean against the wall right outside the Quick Stop doors.
Well, let's see. And I'm just trying to think. I was on the left side. So I guess in theory I would have been Jay, but I guess I always identify more with the Silent Bob.
Yeah, that makes sense as a filmmaker. So how did you organize this documentary? Did you set it up by popularity, like everybody knows Back to the Future and Golden Girls, or did you have your own personal pop culture emotions and experiences kind of prompt certain locations?
Yeah, it was more or less like everything I'm into outside of a couple movies. You know, it was like, you know, I never really got into the Twilight movies, but I knew how popular they were. You know, The Outsider's House was something I never really watched. But, you know, when Danny Boy O'Connor owns the house, you kind of have to go there, you know?
Yeah. The dude from House of Pain.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, like Friday, huge movie in my youth, you know, can't hardly wait. You know, bringing Ethan Ray and Joel McHaley there, like, was so amazing. That was the most fanboy I had in this whole process, is having Ethan. Ethan was in our Guar documentary, but to have him in this was like unreal. But yeah, Friday, Pee Wee Herman, Full House, like you have to hit the big ones. But yeah, there was so much of just like, you know, I don't know how many people were clamoring to see the Short Circuit house, but I wanted to see it, you know, because I loved Bob, you know?
Yeah. And were there any houses that got away then?
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, I would have loved to do the Boy Meets World house, you know, but they didn't get back to me. I would have loved to had a full story with the Nightmare on Elm Street house, but we talked to the old owners and she was great, but she just didn't want to appear on camera. So there really wasn't anything we could do with it. And at the time, you know, a well-known director live there, and she's not going to want to be like, oh yeah, I live here, check it out.
Yeah.
So like I would say Freddy and Boy Meets World for sure were like one of the houses that I really, really wanted to go to.
Like this list that you're talking about, like, is there a difference between, say, like a horror house or a comedy or feel good house, like between, like, say, the Halloween house with Laurie Strode lives, quote unquote lives, or like the Golden Girls house? Is there a difference between horror house and happy house, I guess, for lack of a better term?
I guess like any horror house or any Christmas sort of themed house, you always have like at least one time a year to think about it, and I guess that's the difference. Yeah, I definitely saw that there was a way more like way more people were into TV houses because these are houses that you're seeing in your home, like on a weekly basis. So there's a connection there for a TV house, like Golden Girls, Full House was pretty up there, versus, I don't know, maybe, Friday is very busy, but like TV people had a way more connection. But yeah, with horror, especially now, like I just got back from California and like there's huge lines outside of Michael Myers' house in South Pasadena. A Halloween house. There's one right off Sunset, the Nightmare on Elm Street house right off Sunset. Like all these houses are a thing that people check out because it's Halloween. And the horror fan base is pretty intense. So yeah, I could see the horror houses being a little bit more visited, but I think there's a deeper connection sometimes to the TV houses.
Yeah, the Halloween house and the Poltergeist house recently hit the market and were sold, right? So
yeah.
And I always wonder if that's partly, like you said, a commentary on like people like, because it runs through your documentary where people are like, I'm tired of these people coming around. I just want a quote unquote house, right? I just want to like mow the lawn and like have a beer in the backyard.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's right. It's interesting to see what neighborhoods or townships allow these sort of houses to become a business. I think the Goonies house in Astoria has big difficulties with that. Christmas Story house where it is in Cleveland, they're like, hey, please bring business to our area. Same thing with Tulsa, Oklahoma for the outsiders. Please bring business. But like when you're the Full House house and you're next to a $4 million house, they're not gonna want to have their neighbor's house turn into a business.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So Ryan Reynolds is an executive producer. Were you professional with Ryan, or did you instantly start quoting Van Wilder?
I'll tell you, I'm a huge Van Wilder and just friends guy. I even have a whole Ryan Reynolds section over here in the video downstairs. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge, huge fan of Ryan. Even when we posted the news about that, I would have all the Van Wilder soundtrack, because that was just a great pop punk sort of soundtrack. I forget when the movie came out, like 2003, 2002.
Something like that.
Yeah, big fan of Ryan.
It's his birthday today.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's good to know.
There you go. Quick little tangent about Ryan Reynolds. I have no way to verify this story. So if you end up talking to him or wishing him a happy birthday, add this PS. So it's related to your documentary. There's a abandoned insane asylum that they shoot a lot of movies and stuff in BC. X-Files shot there, Supernatural, a lot of productions obviously in BC. And they were shooting Deadpool 2. And so this is the story I heard from somebody on the set where like the makeup guy was touching up Ryan's face because he has that whole pizza face in Deadpool. And him and Josh Brolin as Cable were sitting there and Ryan was in the Deadpool thing gear and Josh Brolin was in the Cable gear. And Ryan Reynolds, who grew up obviously in Vancouver and BC, he said to Josh, this place is haunted. And Brolin was like, get out of here, man. Because like he thought he was hazing the new guy, on the set or whatever. And then so Ryan starts telling him these creepy stories about these like hauntings at this insane asylum. And so then they decide, let's go check it out because they were between takes. So they're still setting up lights and stuff. So they start going down this hallway and they try the first couple of doors and they're locked. And they go into this one large room. I guess it must have been a dining room or something else. This large room. And as soon as they entered, the temperature drops and it gets really cold. And then all three of them, the makeup guy, Josh Brolin, and Ryan Reynolds, feel this really malevolent spirit. And Ryan turns to them and goes, let's get the fuck out of here. And so they left and they went back to the set. So I have no way to verify if this story is real. But this was why I was asking you if there's like a difference between like a happy house or a horror house, right? Like,
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, like, isn't the Poltergeist? The Poltergeist house but just sold and is now an Airbnb, I believe. Like, I think that was haunted, right? Like, wasn't there like a special in that house?
Yeah, and people believe that the skeletons were real as well. like in
Oh,
the
yeah.
in the pool. Like there was a lot of urban legends kind of surrounding it because some of the cast members died, and like so that one has a lot of like cursed material.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. That's a fun story. I don't know. That's crazy. I like that though. I mean, that's what's interesting about some of those houses where it's like, yeah, like I've definitely heard of the poltergeist scenario being things, but like, when we talked to Bianca at the Halloween house with the corner, with the pumpkin,
Mm-hmm.
she felt some sort of relief in her house because there was no murders in that one. It
Yeah.
was just the kill house was like somewhere else in California. Nothing really crazy happened there, but very iconic. So she felt relieved that nothing too bad happened.
This idea of the pumpkin, you're talking about the scene where Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode, sits there on the
Yeah.
corner there, and there's like a little stoop or something, and she kind of sits there with this pumpkin. And a lot of people, you see it throughout your documentary, but also on IG, a lot of people reenact that scene, right? They sit there
Yeah.
with the pumpkin, and they kind of have that faraway look or whatever. Like your Barney doc, the one I touched upon, like it explores why we hate things. The house from explores why we adore things, right? So what is that ritual about when like people want to smoke weed at the Friday house porch or like do the lean back or hold the pumpkin like Laurie Strode? Like, what does this say about us and who we are?
Yeah, it's a little bit more. It's almost like the things we worship, because these houses are such an image that we worship and also bring us joy in a way that connects us to this sort of feeling of home and feeling whole. So when you are going to the Breaking Bad house and throwing the pizza, or doing this at the Home Alone house, or smoking cannabis outside of Friday, you're participating in that ceremony. That ceremony of the thing that you felt familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Like even like me saying, "Oh, I took the eggs out the quick stop." You're participating, and you feel like you're a part of this thing. It's like, because you're never going to meet, Chris Tucker, Ice Cube,
Mm-hmm.
but you can meet that house and feel like you're friends with them, or feel like you're doing something that you've seen so many times over and over and over. Fans have been to that Full House more than John Stamos or Dave Coulier,
Mm-hmm.
they were shot there, but like they just feel so connected to these people because of that. So I think it's just like we learn from images. We think in these things of images. So when you see these houses have the feeling of home and safety anyway. So you just feel so complete when you're in there and then doing the thing that they do in the show, or the movie.
There's a pop culture adage. What you're talking about reminds me of this pop culture adage, which is everything's always dying, but nothing ever dies. Everything's always dying, but nothing ever dies. So like Alien Romulus, it's a 2024 movie. It's coming out on VHS, right? Like vinyl was like in the hospice for years, and now it's back. Like in a weird sense, is your documentary, The House From, is it a commentary on physical media? Because I know I'm talking to a dude who owns Lionel's Sword of Omens, right? So you can quote unquote go to this Halloween universe where Michael Myers exists, and you wouldn't want to either because he would probably kill you. But this is a great way to kind of touch the house or take a photo holding a pumpkin, and you're like, it's almost physical media in a sense.
I wish it was about physical media because I love physical media, but I think it is something to do with the physical touch and the physical place. Our parents' generation always probably dreamed about going to the Eiffel Tower, or Mount Rushmore, or seeing these iconic places, Mark Twain's house or whatever. But I think our generation, who grew up way more on television, are more intrigued to visit, the Breaking Bad house, or the Goonies house, or the Christmas Story house. These are physical touch points opposed to, the Eiffel Tower or something like that, or Big Ben.
Mm-hmm. But then extending that thread of Breaking Bad, there's also this kind of strange arrogance that runs through your documentary where a number of fans take things too far. And their response, you had this a couple of times throughout the documentary, is like, well, if you don't like it, then don't live here, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is the Halloween house, or this is like the Goonies house, for example. You know what I mean? Like, it's tough nuts on you, which is a weird thing because, as you said, a lot of these houses are still actually houses. People are raising families and like, putting out the recycling on Wednesdays. Like, it's a house.
Yeah. I mean, I think our film shows that perspective, because I think, you watch these shows over and over and over. You don't think that a lot of it's real, and when you go to a place like for it's real, there's so many things like connecting in your brain that you're like, oh my God, this is real. And you know it as, let's just say the Friday House, right? You know that as Ice Cube's character, you know that as house, Smokey, and so to know that someone else lives there is just a little bit different for you, and then when you're there at the house, so with the Breaking Bad people, they're like, well, you know what you did? It's like they didn't, like especially particularly the Breaking Bad house, they lived there. That was their house, and they agreed to have some little show, on this little park at the time to use it, and then it blew up, so they had no idea, and they're not going to change it. It's like to a million different people, that's the Breaking Bad house, but to one person, it's home, so there is this weird sort of, I don't want to use the word entitlement, but there is this, I think people have a hard time disconnecting their reality with the actual reality, and because these people who are going to the houses, like Full House, when I was there wasn't a time in which there wasn't a mountain full of people outside of that house. Like when I walked out, it was like I was coming out of like the Backstreet Boys, like Jets in that one music video, and like no one got out of my way. Yeah. Like I very well could have owned the house. I mean, I didn't, but like I'm walking out, like they see me coming out there, and they just did not get out of my way. So it's like they're on a mission to get their picture, to live their memory, and they're not thinking about the other person, And I think that our film does show that it's like, let's be a little bit respectful, because even like myself, like I'll go to these houses and take pictures. But like, for instance, like the new owner of the Freddy Krueger house, I mean, does not like the fans from what I'm hearing. And like the bushes have gotten longer. There's like political signs so you really can't see the house. And I was like bummed, but it's like, it's their house. They can do whatever they want, know?
The Golden Girls house had a fence because that one got sold in your documentary. Yeah.
That was sad.
That was sad. Yeah, because people were like freaking out. It's the Golden Girls house, right? Like,
Yeah, but even just knowing the people who lived there, like that was their grandmom's house, who they built that house, and they had a particular style and look, like they worked so hard on it. And these people pass away, and when they sell it, I mean, look, you buy $4 million on this house, you can do whatever you want, right?
Right, yeah.
But it is upsetting, yes, for the Golden Girls, but also for this lady who, this couple who wanted their house to look a particular way, It's just anything like childhood home. If you move out and you see someone doing something, you're just like, oh, why'd they do that? Because there's this ownership, but the realization that you don't own that, or the McAllisters don't own that, it's like, it's hard. It's hard to deal with sometimes.
It's kind of like a Graceland tension that runs through your documentary, The House From, because like,
yeah,
Graceland opened to the public in 1982, and they've done their best to preserve it. So it has the old-timey TV that Elvis had, right? The light switches on the wall are very old-timey, all that kind of stuff when Elvis was alive up to the 60s and the 70s. Graceland is trapped in time, so it's preserved. Yeah. And you can go there and you can pilgrimage and you can like pay your quote-unquote respects to Elvis, or you can figure out what Elvis means to you, right? It's a pilgrimage. Yeah. You go there, you go to Graceland. Whereas these houses are kind of in this weird kind of gray zone because they're not historical sites, but they are historical sites.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of them are like, it depends on the township, like I'm blanking on where it is. It's the same town as Halloween Town, but like in Oregon, where the Twilight House is, they have preserved it like it's a museum. They have the same table. They have like, they painted the same color. They have everything to be like you're walking straight back into that movie. So they're able to do that. Same thing with the Christmas Story house. He made sure it made to feel like that thing. So there are these houses, and there are these like sort of like famous house saviors that are seeing some of these houses go on the market and want to feel like they could preserve it. Especially like Silence of the Lambs, the Buffalo Bill house. Mm-hmm. Like Chris, he's doing some great stuff with that house. But other people aren't ready to give up that ownership. Like you'll see these things happen when the family's ready to let go. And someone wants to take it and not let it, the Golden Girls happen or something like that. Like I think the fans of the Golden Girls were very bummed to see that fence go up, and they painted the house. It looks different now, but it's just a lot of people want to preserve that if they can.
As we're wrapping up now, I want to touch upon nostalgia because it runs through a lot of your work, and it's related to what you were just saying, because Is there a concern, I guess, as sitcoms kind of go through this limited period? There's not a lot of sitcoms being made anymore. Like, movies have mostly become Marvel movies, so we get a lot of green screen. There aren't a lot of these famous locations as much now, right? As there were.
That's not true. Yeah, like you look at Stranger Things. I mean, people go to Atlanta all the time to check out those houses, And I think it's interesting if I were making a show and it started to be a hit, I would, as the studio or the network, I would probably try to buy that house, so to turn it into some sort of property, kind of like, I mean, TLC sort of did it with the Brady Bunch house, but they sold it back. But like, I think there is an element of like, if we're gonna make a show that has a house and like play to the house, and the studio should probably try to buy it so that way they can have like some sort of more revenue out of it, making like escape room of some kind. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of new houses that have been popping up, but like Stranger Things, granted, I guess it's not the newest thing anymore, but like, I definitely see it as like that big popularity in that show because people definitely go to those locations.
And the house from is going to be showing at Kevin Smith's Film Festival in Jersey. How was that experience? Just to go circle back to like you hanging out at the Quick Stop, and now like you're like showing it at Kevin Smith's cinema.
Yeah, I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan. I just realized I have like Clerks on VHS, DVD, 10th anniversary DVD, and Blu-ray.
But you're going to have to get the 30th now.
Oh yeah. Are they going to, I guess they will probably re-release it, huh? Jeez, 5. But yeah, but like I had the same thing with Mallrats, so like I've known Kevin for a bit, like when we did our Santa Claus documentary 10 years ago, he came to the premiere in LA, and like me and Mick Foley went to his house and did his podcast. I've been on his podcast twice. I've been in his house. Like, talk about houses, like you go to the bathroom in that house. And that used to be Ben Affleck and J-Lo's house. You're like, am I going to the same bathroom as Ben Affleck and J-Lo?
Yeah. Are you sleeping in the toilet seat like that one guy did in the Twilight house?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's how the conversation started, because I was, my mind has gone down that route before, But yeah, I mean, he's always been really, really good to me. And obviously I've always been a big fan. And yeah, he be on his podcast and talking about that stuff. But now, yeah, he's going to like intro the movie, I believe, and him being there and his house, or his theater house, home of the 4:30 movie that just came out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited, especially, I think this one in particular, just because Jason Lee is the narrator, it's, I fell in love with his voice in Mallrats and Chasing Amy. Obviously we picked his voice because of My Name is Earl. He narrated that as a TV show. So there was a lot of that sort of stuff going. But yeah, I always try to make it full circle with those things, at least in my own narrative.
In terms of going full circle, you're making a MySpace movie?
Yeah. MySpace documentary.
Yeah, and you met your wife through MySpace, is that correct?
Yeah, so we both worked at a radio station together in Philadelphia. But like, there was no world in which I was going to ever go up to her and start talking to her in real life, But like, MySpace was the thing that was able to get us talking. It's like, oh wait, you like Freaks and Geeks? I like Freaks and Geeks, that's how we started talking.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, MySpace is the best. You strap on your black hair dye and your emo songs, top 8.
Yeah.
Very.
Was I guess eventually your wife or girlfriend at that time, she cracked the top 8, right? She was able to move in.
Yeah. She's in my top 8. Sure. Yeah. And that was in her.
Oh, okay, good. That works out. That's always a good sign, right? When you can crack the top 8, like, you're making progress. It's funny because it's just like to go from the house from to MySpace. These are very like, we spend a lot of time with these places, right? Like, it's literally called MySpace, and it feels at the same time the house from is like you said, because especially with a lot of sitcoms like The Golden Girls house, Back to the Future was another one. Like, it feels like these are our spaces. Right. So there is like I guess an element of home that runs through these kind of two docks.
Yeah. I mean, movies are now like 100 years old. Like we all like it sort of changed the way we tell stories, the way we think of story, the way we relate to people. I think pop culture is more than just, I think there's a Danny Boy in our movie talks about how like pop culture used to be a thing of like, oh yeah, movies, TV, whatever. But now it's so ingrained in everything we are. It's how we communicate. It's how we identify. And there's just so much about it that you can tell these stories inside of pop culture that are meaningful, and like in our Barney doc, we're talking about like where hate comes from, but with a purple dinosaur.
Mm-hmm.
The Bill Murray stories, we're talking about like living in the moment, being present. through Bill Murray doing the dishes. I Am Santa Claus. We're talking about identity and community by men who dress like Santa, And House is just like a fun watch, but we do talk about these images that we worship and make us feel. I mean, nostalgia is the meaning of nostalgia is like home pain, homesickness. So it is almost the ultimate nostalgia doc because we are talking about these homes that we don't happen to live in, but they feel like our home.
It's a shorthand what you're talking about, right? Like if you see somebody sitting on the stoop holding the pumpkin, that's from Halloween, or at least most people will know that's from Halloween. But there's another group of people that will see that image on Instagram and like, oh, think it's just like October or Pumpkin Fest or something. Like they won't know, they won't get it, right?
Well, that's just great. Like some of these houses, like you walk by them and you don't even know. Like there's a scene like we're filming the Can't Hardly Wait house, and this couple who lives down the street are like, why are you filming this? I'm like, oh, it's a famous house. They're like, really, what? And we're like, oh, it's from this and this and this. They're like, oh, American Pie, like you walk by these things that, yes, majority of them don't have monuments or anything like that, and you don't even think of it. Like, I'm not sure if you remember the show What's Happening. Like that house, like Rerun's house, is still there, and there was not a long line. But you go like, oh, that's where they were. That Rerun was outside of this house, like in real life. And like even in some parts of Hancock Park, I mean, this is not for movies, but like the Three Stooges used to live right around there,
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool that like there's these things that some of them are obvious, Full House, or I don't know, Golden Girls, but like some aren't. You got to go, oh, that's this.
You had that scene in your documentary about the Friends apartment.
I
think it was in New York City, right? So I'm like one lady.
Ryan goes, that's why everyone's always out there? I never knew that.
Yeah.
I've been down that so many times.
Yeah. Because to me, if I was in New York City and I walked past that, it's just a building. Like, it's just another building. Like, I didn't watch Friends, so I don't have a connection to the show, right? And that's what I'm talking about. Like, but then everyone else, like, you see a lot of the girls and stuff, oh my gosh! And, like, they're taking photos and they're all excited, right? Yeah. Same with the Sex and the City stoops.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, there's always a line there. Because the Friends is interesting because it's a corner. So yeah, you're thinking everyone's just waiting to cross, and you're not like fully like, oh, why are people looking at this thing? You just think they're just staring, But Sex and the City, it's like it's roped off. There's always a line, always people taking pictures. I mean that's up there with like iconic.
So we've gone from Barney to Three Stooges and everything in between. So thank you so much.
Yeah, well, man, Three Stooges. I love it. Thank you.
But yeah, so, and it'll be on the Maximum Effort channel on October 27th. That's correct?
Yes. Maximum Effort channel this Sunday, October 27th. And October 28th, it will be like everywhere else, like iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, all your transactional sites. So everything should be connected on thehousefrom.com.
Perfect. So yeah, we do wish Ryan Reynolds a happy birthday. If you have a chance, run by that story and see how accurate that is. And thanks again for the documentary.
Yeah, thank you.
Yo, that was Tommy, the director of The House From, and I'm Sammy, host of My Summer Lair. In 2018, I got to visit Graceland. This was Elvis's home, of course, and it's now become a tourist attraction / museum. And it is a remarkable pilgrimage. People save up and they go to Graceland. It's a distinct connection. In the interview, Tommy talked about the Eiffel Tower as a similar experience. When you go to Paris, okay, sure. The Eiffel Tower is expensive and it's a tourist attraction and all of that jazz. We know that, right? But the first time you go to Paris, you have to get it done. You eat the cost and you go up there and you have a good time. Ooh la la, snap some photos, and then you leave. It doesn't make sense to go all the way to Paris and just not see the Eiffel Tower. It's the same thing with going to Seattle and seeing the Space Needle. Just go up, get it done. The Great Wall in China. These large monuments exist in every city. This is how we do tourism. But Graceland has a personal connection. It means something to the people that are fans of Elvis or who have discovered Elvis. It's a way for them to pay their respects or to have this connection with Elvis. For me, the experience was transcendent. It's sacred ground. I could imagine that for especially older people who grew up actually listening to Elvis when he was alive, to be in that space, That's emotionally difficult to process. I appreciate and I'm grateful Graceland is open to the public. If you have a chance, go to Graceland. After this conversation with Tommy, I do want to stop by the One Year's house next time I'm in LA. For you, what's a famous house you want to visit? Or what's a pop culture house that means a lot to you? Check out The House From on the Maximum Effort channel. Actually, in the new Deadpool movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, you'll hear Ryan Reynolds say Maximum Effort. That's his channel, Maximum Effort. And after that, check out my pal Sammy on Substack, a weekly companion newsletter for this fine program. Is it a fine program? Yeah, let's go with fine program. Why not? Like, we class up the joint. All the things you enjoy about My Summer Lair, sarcasm and sass and Sammy are distilled into a weekly newsletter delivered right to your inbox. Boom! That was a false boom, because it's pretty smooth. Sign up today, Google My Pal Sammy, and there we go. Boom! You'll see the Substack link. My Pal Sammy into Google. Sign up. I appreciate everyone who has signed up, who is actively reading and leaving comments and thumbs up and all of that. I really do appreciate it. Thank you to everyone. And thank you for listening to me in a Netflix world. The House From, yo.